I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Rezero, Season 2, Episode 6. The Bal Hunter's back.
Yep. If we hadn't watched the opening, I don't think I would have expected to maybe ever see that character again, which would have been a shame to have never seen the Bal Hunter again.
Where in the opening did we see the
Bal
Bal
Hunter? Is
Hunter?
in the opening.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even see the Bal Hunter in the opening. I assumed that if we saw anything, it seemed like Subaru was walking past his previous deaths from Season 1. So I assumed that if anything, it would have been just,
Gotcha. See, I thought it was pretty clear that the Bal Hunter would be re-entering the story.
Well, I'm glad I'm stupid. I'm glad I missed it. Because I was not expecting at all what we got to see in the last
super
episode.
Surprised about this because my mind at the time, they really had my expectations being that Frederica did something.
Yeah.
So this was a giant shock for sure.
I wonder what this means in terms of who the Bal Hunter is connected to, and is it the same person who was tasking her to do what she did at the beginning of the series?
You can't introduce a character like that and not continue to use them. You can't.
Yeah.
There's something about the Bal Hunter that is so freaking terrifying and so entertainingly creepy that you just... And other good qualities.
Yeah.
To keep on the screen. That I'm so happy that the Bal Hunter...
So,
not for Subaru. I'm not happy for Subaru's sake that the Bal Hunter is back.
But I wonder what this means going forward. I wonder where we wake up assuming that we're dead. I wonder if...
That was one of my questions. Where is the start over point?
I wonder that if when we wake up, if we're going to have any further interactions with Echidna, if she has any reaction to Subaru's apparent ability to, do what he does, return from death, return by death,
memories.
And who Subaru possibly could take with him to help him with the Bal Hunter.
Yes, some other questions going into this episode, especially if there is a start over point, is the question we got posed last episode of, does Amelia want to confront her past?
Mm-hmm.
And also this idea of do we actually know what Frederica's intentions are?
And we're not just putting ourselves through pain this time around over and over again, potentially. We can be putting Amelia through that. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting and fun and torturous, which is Rezero. Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh...
Not only is he was already making her confront her past over and over again, start over also makes it happen over and over again.
That's a good point. This also means it's immediately after the interaction with Echidna in the school uniform, so we don't get to see that again. Young Sue.
How does Amelia feel about that? One was hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
As your knight, I'll do it.
Wow, I'm surprised you suggested that. Good.
So different from how he talked to him.
Wow.
Yeah. Is it because it wasn't his idea to begin with?
ロズボーはエミリア様の手で聖域の解放がなされるべきだと考えたらんじゃ。
勘違いすんな。野郎のことが嫌いなのは俺様も同じだけどな。わかんねえろ。結界が解けて正式に領地に迎え入れられたとしても。
So I guess after seeing Amelia in pain multiple times is when Garfield starts to waver.
くそ、エミリア。いや、落ち着け。今は屋敷の方をどうするかだ。あのイカれた女がレムやペトラたちに何もしないなんてありえねえ。問題はフレデリカだ。
Back to
あいつはエルザと繋がっているのか。一刻も早く屋敷に帰らない。
With reason, though.
今回はどうも俺だと折り合いが悪くなりそうなんだ。今回
this time.
Oh.
ふむ、それはどうして。フレデリカはエミリアに奇跡を持たせた。それは何か企んでた証拠だろう。仮に彼女が敵対したら君はどうする。
Good question.
結界ローズワールは大怪我、オットーは戦力外通告が済んでる。一人を除けばそうなるね。
Ram?
Yeah.
はっきり言って気に入らない状況だ。
まだそれを言いますかよ、姉様。あの包帯ガーフィールが巻いたって聞いて唖然としたぞ。
バカバカしい。ラムがやってロズワール様のお怪我が悪化したらどうするの。
完成しろ。いい女に挟まれて堂々のご帰還ってか。大層なご身分だね。こんな朝っぱらから見送りに来るとは思わなかった。遠くに投げておとりにするしかなかった。引っかかるわけねえだろ。ねえよな。ラム、どうした？
バカ話に頭が痛くなっただけよ。
けど大丈夫だ。手紙は残しておいた。そういえば俺に渡すものないのか？ああ？何言ってんだ？
惚れた女が役目を果たしに行くのよ。力になりたいとは思わないの？
都合のいい時だけてめえって女。
Good job, Ram. Good job.
できるだけ俺が誠心誠意謝ってたと伝えてくれ。なもんてめえの口から伝える。
Would it be a second time a letter would be blank?
No.
ラムをおとりに投げ飛ばすなんて言っていたでしょ。そのことがなぜか妙に胸に引っかかる。
Wow.
まるで本当にそんなことがあったみたい。
And she was really unhappy about that.
ラム、大事な話があるんだ。お前にとって世界で一番大事な話だ。
About Ram.
そんなものロズワール様以外にないはずだけど。
いや、あるんだよ。その話をするよ。レムって子がいてさ。何も起きててくれるなよ。前回と比べて2日早い。いつことを起こすつもりなのかが重要だ。攻めるか逃げるか。エルザ相手ならケツまくって逃げるのが大正解だ。となると
バルス。
なんだよ、今考え事してって。
おかえりなさいませ。
Okay.
どうかしたのスバル様。
Is it just how quick it was, or the lead up to it?
それ。
これはお揃いで。
Matching pair, the necklaces with Garfield. Yep. Interesting.
ただいま、ペトラ。
はっきり言って気に入らない状況だわ。
どっかで聞いたセリフだな。
すっかり忘れられて途方に暮れたラムの可愛い嫌味。バルスと違ってわきまえているようね。確認してあげる。
ああ、ペトラ、留守番の間変わったことはなかったか？
フレデリカ姉様、変なところなんて全然。
今屋敷か？あっちの出方が見たい。その間にレムのところだ。
So the explanation happened off screen.
何かあったら呼んでください。
What is this gonna be like?
緊張してるな。
緊張なんて。
いや、むしろしろよ。するべきだと思うし、してほしいと思う。
I want you to be.
バルス、
なんだ？
少しだけ二人にしてもらえる？
ひとまずだ。
お早いお戻りでしたのね、スバル様。
Frederica.
それはガーフの石ですの。
そんで予想だと姉っぽい。
正解ですわ。
何のためにお前は奇跡を使って転移の罠を仕組んだ？これも制約で話せないか？だとしてもこればっかりは。
スバル様、転移って何のことですの？
聖域の解放を望まない保守派に協力してるはずだろ。
保守派？何のことなのか。どうやら離れている間にお茶の腕は上がらなかったみたい。得意なのはお茶を入れることだけですの。可愛げのない子ですわね。ラムはもう十分可愛いもの。これ以上は世界が危険よ。ほんと口も減りませんわね。
This is so interesting.
質問に答えようとしないだけで裏切りは明らかよ。ここで拘束して聖域へ連行する。そうすればフレデリカにあれこれ指示しただろう相手をあぶり出す。聖域へ連行するというなら抵抗はいたしませんわ。
ほら見ろ、フレデリカだって抵抗しないの。なんで？
察
She
しが悪いわ
wanna
ね。
go?
フレデリカは自分の意志で制約を破ることができないからバルスに力ずくで仕方なく。
それでいいなら正直助かる。今はとっととここを退散したいか。
そんな釣れないこと言わないでほしいのだけれど。
Oh no.
さあ、交わした約束を果たすとしましょ
No.
う。
I do not want to see any of these people killed.
部分中華
Whoa!
ペトラ、入れ飛びなさい。腕を。
ああ、痛い痛い。
We know when she shows up now.
引くわよ。
Oh no.
さあ、やったのか。助けないと。
二人を置いて屋敷を4人で脱出する。それがこの場の最善よ。
式にいるのはレムだ。お前の妹だ。
ここでラムやフレデリカ、ついでにバルスを失う痛手の方が陣営にとって大きい。ラムとウリ2つの同族の血が流れていることも感じた。なのにあの子の存在だけがぽっかりと空白。ラムの妹ならこういうはずよ。ロズワール様のためにもレムを犠牲にしてくださいと。
No, she'd say sacrifice me to save Subaru.
私は二人を助け出すべきだと考えますわ。
Wow.
痛手というなら、ベアトリス様もレムも
ラム姉様より役立つってフレデリカ姉様も。
敵を抑える役割は言い出しっぺの私が負います。
またそうやって進んで貧乏くじを引きに行くの。
Deliberately choosing the short
私の
straw.
可愛い後輩ですもの。ガーフが私の真似っこですのよ。
Garf is the one who imitates me.
これが中華ってやつか。
Okay.
Oh, and the tail is the hair!
怖がらせてごめんなさい。悲鳴を上げず偉かったですわよ。
はい。姉様気をつけて。フレデリカこそ遅れを取ったら承知しないわよ。
What the f... What the... What the hell?
What the fuck?
When Elsa came in, did she break the barriers too?
Frederica just checked the barriers, no?
But Elsa came in after Frederica got back.
ラムが引きつける間に2人を回収しなさい。
We're all separating. This is the coolest mob beast ever. I don't know much about first aid, but are you supposed to rip it out?
ペトラ、ごめんな。いつも危ない目に遭わせて。
Oh, they're swapping.
変なこと言わない。私スバルに感謝してるの。お姉様とベアトリスちゃんも連れて、ラム姉様とフレデリカ姉様とみんなで。
ペトラすげえよ。ほら情けねえな。
そんなの。
いや、今のは泣き言じゃない。こう、お前の言う通り全員で脱出する。
I don't feel good.
I am extremely nervous.
でもなくて、はいでした。
後でフレデリカがラムに叱ってもらう。
Ooh! 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 Another mob beast?
使ってくれたわね。
フレデリカは
大きなメイドさんのことそれなりに楽しめたから。
誰の依頼で俺たちを狙った？
依頼主については話さない。一応それぐらいの礼儀はわきまえているの。あなたの
Learn something!
から少し依頼と違った形になってしまった。
違う形？
メイドが2人と引きこもりが1人。あなたの帰りに合わせるつもりだったの。
How would they know of that?
What?
Is that like the name of the mob beast?
Betty?
どうして助けた？ベアトリス
Alright, that was Rezero, Season 2, Episode 6. I, feel like I've done a pretty good job getting used to, like, horrific things happening within the show and, like, being able to, like, desensitize myself somewhat to it. That has been compromised with seeing Petra's hand. That really fucked me up.
As soon as I heard the voice of Elsa and I was thinking about who was in the room here, I was like, I don't want to see all three of these girls die here. I don't want to see it from Subaru's point of view and how that tears him up inside. I was immediately like, please don't do this to me.
Yeah.
Please.
There are a lot of things to talk about this episode. Want to go chronologically?
Sure.
Like, I find myself wanting to talk about what happened last first.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
To start with, waking up again
up.
and having the conversation Subaru did with Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
That is massively interesting to me, how it played out.
I understand how it played out completely. I think that he forgot for a second some of the things that he's learned up until this point. You have to be very careful with what you say when you know way more than other people know. And you can't consistently be speaking like you can read their mind when in that moment in time, they won't feel the same that they did 10 minutes later.
Exactly.
So when like Garfield reacts in a way that surprises Subaru,
Mm-hmm.
because Subaru's like, I just talked to you and this is what you said. Well, yeah, that was Garfield after this event or that event or these conversations, you know, after he had seen multiple times what was happening to Amelia.
And seeing Amelia's resolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you hit the nail on the head with you can't say something to somebody before they realize that that's how they feel themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for somebody like Amelia to come to their own conclusion to say something like, this is my responsibility, I want to be the person to do this, they have to have already internally come to that conclusion confidently enough that they're willing to say that to other people.
Right. Subaru uses this word to describe what the first test was to him, and that it was that he realized, and it was in quotes in the like subtitles.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't say, I don't know what his comparison was. He wouldn't say this, but he would say that he realized. And here when he's waking up, it's kind of like a little bit of a bad habit where he's like, okay, I'm informed now. I know how this is meant to be done. Other characters are going to support me in this because they all are worried about how this is emotionally possibly harming Amelia and that maybe I shouldn't be forcing her to do this. But what he's seeing is that conversation was with someone else. That conversation was not with Amelia. The last conversation he had with Amelia was on the steps, and she was like asking him to continuously support her.
Yeah.
Like she was putting herself in this position. Yes, she felt like she had the responsibility to be doing so, but is that really a bad thing? To have to do something because you have responsibility toward doing it and it's hard? Is that really a bad thing that someone should stop you from doing?
It's interesting because it's like Subaru is being conscientious, right? And like considerate of other people's feelings to a certain extent, not just like imposing his will and knowledge of I know what to do, this is right. It's like we can tell by his shocked expression of like wait, Garf, why are you reacting this way? Because I think he's acting with what he learned these characters felt in mind.
I think it's really actually more realistic. No person is going to learn something of how to act or treat someone or be a better communicator and then be absolutely flawless after that point of realization about how to be actually considerate to someone. Like, what's happening here is that Subaru is hearing from one of the last things he hears is from one character. Therefore, that is what is informing him going in here. And what's happening is those opinions and those thoughts are then shadowing any amount of thought he could have given in that moment to how he should be articulating himself to Amelia here. Like, he is not super planning how he's going to be saying things to Amelia and how she might feel about them. I think if he gave it a couple seconds thought in this instance before he says these things he does to Amelia about he will do it for her as her strength, I think that if he had given himself a moment to think about it, he might not have chosen to actually say that. He would have been like, does she want me to do that? You know?
Yeah.
Or he could just be like, if you want to do it, I'll support you. But just so you know, I can also do the trial. But it's your decision. Like, give her the facts and the information that you could do it. So if she deems that it would mean something to her that you still did it as her strength, she could make that choice for herself and still feel some amount of, like, autonomy over the decision. I don't know, some type of confidence with the fact that she was a part of the decision making.
Yeah.
But, like, still support her. Still, what happens here is why she's upset is because she's like, wait, do you not trust me to be able to do it?
And it honestly kind of blew me away. I expected the event to go, okay, Subaru goes up to Amelia and is like, all right, Amelia, I know how you felt in, the last iteration of your life, like, internally. I know that you wanted to continue doing this and pushing yourself forward, so that's what I'm going to reaffirm to you. I'm going to be like, okay, Amelia, this is what I'm going to be doing. You continue with the trials. And then I thought Amelia would react like, I don't know if I'm strong enough yet, because she hasn't come to that conclusion herself. But obviously it didn't play out that way. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if there's a chance for another, like, iteration of it, because that's brought into question after the ending of this episode. Like, how do you properly go about this? Do you give them the time that it took the last time, or can you say things to bring about that self-discovery quicker?
So that's a great point. So what's another thing that's working against Subaru here is the urgency factor.
Yeah.
The fact that he needs to get this trial done with so that he can hopefully go protect Ram, Petra, and Frederica and get to the mansion. So when he wakes up here, he's like, I feel affirmed in my actions by the people I spoke to in my past life.
Yeah.
I know that I've already passed a trial, and I know that the Bow Hunter is literally going to be at the mansion in, I don't even know, a day or two.
Yeah.
Don't know exactly where that's going to happen. So that sense of urgency when he wakes up again here fuels the amount of not taking the time to think about how people might feel about what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I think that if he does want to still tell Amelia that he passed and still tell her that he could do it, I think he could do that without it hurting her at all here.
Yeah.
But I also think that he could take the route of thinking how he could best support her in her being able to pass the trial herself.
Yeah.
And I would think that it'd be worth a shot, even if he has, I know he said he'd never waste a life, but if you were hoping for the best possible future for Amelia, you would want to at least give a shot or a try to being the most supportive possible for her so that she's able to pass the trial without having to go over and over and over again through her past.
But it's like,
you would give it a shot.
How do you do that? What's the best way to offer Amelia support other than say that you support her and give her the time it takes to be able to overcome the trials?
So you want to know what I think could totally help? if I were Amelia, I know other people don't like operate this way, but people having common experience or common ground, if he had an actual private conversation with Amelia about how he passed and maybe some about his past that he
Ooh, I
went
like
through
that.
and what he confronted, what he learned about himself, how he feels now having realized these things, how much better he feels having gone through this trial.
Yeah.
I think that if he talks to her privately about his experience with it and how he feels now, and she's able to see him as almost like this model or example that will then give her this confidence of, I can tackle this. Like, Subaru is completely fine. He already went through it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he's incredibly strong, but he also thinks I'm incredibly strong. But also, someone else went through it first,
And not
so
just make it
you
seem
feel
like
a little
it was,
safer.
oh yeah, I already did it. Like, because it's kind of dismissive almost, being
It's like,
oh
I
yeah.
want you to do this. Like, if he was like, I want you to be able to do this, I think you can, I believe in you.
Yeah, but also like reaffirming that it wasn't easy, right?
Yeah.
Because the way that
Reaffirming
it
that
came
it wasn't easy.
Yeah, the way that it came across this episode was
Like, oh, I did it.
yeah, exactly. It's not that big of a deal,
He doesn't
kind
go
of
into
energy.
details. He's like, oh yeah, I realized some stuff. I passed.
So
It's said in a more, like you said, a nonchalant, a very like quick manner that almost makes it seem like the trial is insignificant or not that hard.
or easy, right? And that could put Amelia in a position of like, okay, well, I feel worse about not being able to do something that
She
Subaru
would
did.
feel worse about it.
And-
Yeah, like, why am I so weak?
Yeah.
That something like that he's able to just easily pass the first time had me crying.
Which would reaffirm Amelia's dialogue of saying, do you not trust me? Do you not believe in me? Do you not think I'm strong enough?
We need her to trust herself that she can do it and to feel like other people in the room trust her. She has spent so much of her life feeling like people don't trust her even though they don't even know her, but just because of how she looks, that she needs to feel that Subaru has unwavering, unconditional love and support for her.
Yeah. I think that another route they could go, or at least as an attempt for it, I don't think it's as likely or the correct answer like what you're suggesting it could be, but the idea of like somehow lying and not telling Amelia that like he was able to successfully complete the first trial.
It could do harm for her to know that he was able to do it, because she could still... She's very an internal thinker and self-deprecating and sad, and Puck's not there to like cheer her up. She could get to a point from hearing that of like, wow, he was able to do it so much easier than I was. Like,
So-
why am I such like...
So
why am I
thinking
so
that she
weak?
could be she's the only person who could do it, like could strengthen her own resolve and to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna handle it then. If Subaru can't do it, then this is something that I can do for him, or I can do for
Yeah.
everybody.
I like that. I think the only issue I would have if that was the way it goes is I just don't like when people lie
Yeah.
to other people that
I
they
wonder
love.
what would Puck do here, because we can't like something that's always going to be in the front of my mind is what he said last to Subaru, right? The idea of protecting Amelia and how that might lend itself narratively to the decisions that Subaru should make here. What would Puck do in this situation?
Let her feel confident and self-assured and thinking that she's doing her best while sweeping up anything behind her in her eyesight, like behind her eye line where she can't see. Taking care of business in the background and continuously supporting
Assisting.
her and assisting without maybe making her feel like you were assisting.
Exactly. Or like trampling over, like, or doing it for her,
Yeah.
One thing that I didn't expect to feel is how much I'm enjoying Garf in the story, like more so than the surface level. This is a quirky character who's aggressive and sounds like Bakugo, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm enjoying that, or like enjoying the fact that he has a crush on
They didn't
Ram.
need to
like,
humanize him and make him softer in that way, but I appreciate it.
one of the things that I
it.
really like is his lack of like his lack of care about like, oh, Amelia doesn't need to do this, you could do it for her. Like, I like that he was like, no, I want Amelia to do it. I thought that was an interesting route to go that I didn't expect, because it was reinforced by not by everything that happened last episode,
Mhm.
like, and or not reinforced by everything that happened last episode. Seeing how hard Amelia was trying for this, it humanizes her to a person like Garth, I think.
What we get is he's calling her princess
Yeah.
in this episode, where I'm pretty sure he wasn't calling her princess at the end of last episode. You know, the episode prior to the one we just watched, episode 5. I'm pretty sure he was calling her name, which would show, if you're to think about those two words, one is like he's almost saying in a derogatory fashion.
Yeah.
Like he's meaning offense by like, oh, princess, you know, like she's high and mighty, special. He doesn't care about her. He doesn't care about her feelings. Like, she's responsible for this and she has to fix it. She doesn't care about the little people. There's distance there that he's creating with calling her princess.
Yeah. Next scene we get really is Roswaal and Subaru talking, and they bring up, like, throughout the conversation, Subaru's like, well, Frederica, it gave me the stone. That's almost like proof that she's up to something. And that seemed sufficient enough in dialogue to Roswaal to, like, push forward with Subaru's plan, right? And if she does prove to be an enemy, what will you do? I'm sorry to say so, but you stand no chance against her, which then leads him to offer up Ram.
Mm-hmm.
See, what are you questioning?
I'm questioning Roswaal in general, of, like, if he actually believes that there's anything suspicious with Frederica because of this proof. I think that he has this wide view, bird's eye view of what he wishes to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that he might just see that this current happening that Subaru's mind is set on doesn't necessarily interfere with his plans.
Yeah.
And if anything, it might strengthen certain connections.
Yeah.
Have Subaru learn more about certain people or about the sanctuary in a roundabout way through getting to know Frederica better.
Yeah.
And if anything, learning more about them or the history of the sanctuary, Subaru then as the knight going and talking to Amelia, Subaru could be better informed to treat Amelia a certain way before the trial, or tell her something before the trial that would then enforce that she's the one that does the trial.
Yeah. I think that it does clear up suspicion on my end of Roswaal being at all involved with Elsa. And I know surface level, it wouldn't make any sense that he would be to begin with. It's his mansion, right? But Roswaal's a fucking wild card, man. I don't know anything. I feel like I know nothing about Roswaal. And because of that, he was on the table somewhat. But him offering up Ram to be sufficient enough to be able to deal with or handle anything going down with Frederica has nothing to do with Elsa being there. Because fucking the Bowl Hunter can apparently take on Frederica, Ram, and Subaru, like, all at once by herself.
Yeah, saying that Ram can go with you could honestly be some type of move on Roswaal's end of, like, showing Subaru, hey, look, I'm giving you some trust here. I'm giving you some help. If you really are suspicious of Frederica and she could possibly be harming us in our goals here and for Amelia, then here, I'm going to give you my protector, my, like, main maid to go with you to deal with and or figure out. That shows Roswaal's like open to ideas. He's open to supporting Subaru in whatever, and that honestly, it's kind of manipulative in a way. Like, he's making sure Subaru feels like Subaru can come to Roswaal about things and can trust in him, which doesn't mean Roswaal's evil, but it means that Roswaal's ensuring that characters feel about him in the way that he needs them to for all of his plans to work out. He needs Subaru to see him favorably because Subaru is Amelia's knight, and he needs Amelia to see him favorably.
Yeah.
So if sending Rem with him helps with that, makes Subaru feel supported by Roswaal, that they're partners in this, as Roswaal said 2 episodes ago, we're partners in crime here.
Yeah. So, giving the stone that Frederica gave to Amelia.
Yes.
Was that the same stone that allowed Frederica to transform?
So this one is Garf's, just to add that in there as a possible what if they do different things. But she was surprised that the word teleport was used.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to that conversation later in general, but since chronologically we're at the point where Garf is handing the stone over to Ram, which I loved that. Like, I love that Subaru was like kind of expecting something because like as of shit that it had happened, but had to bring up Ram.
Ram was able to figure out what exactly it was that Subaru was asking for or wanting.
Yeah. Ram's one of my favorite characters by far, by the way.
Using Garf's crush on her against him.
Yeah. But because of that giving of his necklace makes like, was that the same thing that was utilized for her transformation? It seemed like it.
It seemed like it. It seemed like she had to tap into some type of power in order to fully transform.
If that's the case, and that's initially what she was giving Subaru and Amelia before their journey, that's a massive gift because you're making yourself way more vulnerable by giving that and taking that away from you and giving it to somebody.
She says something when she's handing it over to Amelia, which I would have written down, I would assume. More like this idea of like, please survive. Please be able to do this. And I'm not quite sure what it was that she says, but there was definitely the idea that she wanted this to work out.
Are you talking about when they initially leave and Petra's giving Subaru?
Yes, and when Petra's giving her that, she's giving Amelia the, I'm looking for episode 3. See if I can find
I believe I'm about pulled up there.
She thinks that Amelia's qualified.
Here you go. Hands it over.
Mm-hmm.
You have the location and the qualification. Now you only need the resolve and strong will.
And then she says something, I think, when the carriage is pulling away. Like, either internal, take good care of the sanctuary. Do not forget what I said earlier, which I believe was a warning about Garf. Which is intriguing. That she would want you to watch out for Garf.
Yeah, but...
Watch out for him, like, protect him, or watch out for him, like, he's against me.
I think we can get a better idea about that when we go later in the episode to her and Ram talking, but I mainly wanted to bring it up here in Garf's giving this to Subaru and Ram as, like, if that is a prerequisite to being able to fully transform, then not only could it be utilized for other things we can talk about, but it would be nerfing themselves, right? And, like, that's, like, a massive sign of, okay, I trust the person I'm giving this to, but if you're going to convey that necklace to their sibling, it's a massive message to the sibling that, oh, my sister trusts these people enough or wants to send the message of trust enough that she's willing to nerf herself temporarily, you know, by doing so, which is an interesting point. And then Ram remembers the throwing of herself, or, like, you know, has, like, a flashback to it.
I've been used as a decoy before.
I got so, like, confused for a second and, like, oh my god, what does this really mean? Thinking that Ram, at a certain point after that, had died, Subaru had died after that event happened, and Ram was somehow, like, remembering something from a different life, but obviously that isn't the case, right? But for a second I was like, oh shit, Steins Gate, you know?
But I mean, it's confusing that way in general of, like, as Subaru would be confused, what conversations have I had in this life in comparison to the others? The same thing that happens when he wakes up here is that he starts acting on what happened at the end of the episode before this instead of actually starting over completely and starting fresh.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go over, like, in the dialogue that happens in between Ram and Frederica, because one, I enjoyed it very much, but I think that it could give us a little more understanding and insight of the situation. So Frederica is saying, making tea is the one thing I excel at. What an unlovable girl you are. Ram's like, I'm perfectly lovable. If I were more lovable, the world would be in danger. The acknowledgement of Ram's sharp retort, how very like you. But then Ram, like, really gets into it here. If you don't know about the teleporting, why did you give Barasu the glowing stone? You can't tell us because of your oath? If so, that's a pathetic excuse, Frederica. And this is all, like, afterwards, and Subaru's, like, acknowledging like, how quick they are with each other. It seems like almost played up a bit for the sake of the situation, right? Frederica's, you're right, I cannot tell you anything. Sticking to your pathetic excuse, I see, then there's nothing more to discuss. Your refusal to answer the question makes your betrayal clear. We will restrain you and take you to the sanctuary. Then we can figure out who's been giving you orders. If you insist on taking me to the sanctuary, I will not resist. Subaru's like, what? I said that I will not resist. Why? You're awfully slow on the uptake. Frederica can't break her oath of her own free will, so you'll have to use force. It's like she's upholdent to the oath, but is easy to, I don't know, have force be used upon her to break the oath, right?
It makes you wonder if so she's not allowed to speak.
That's the kind of excuse she needs. Like, it's like Ram saying, we'll take you with us, is the excuse she needs to be like, fine, I'll go with you since you're enforcing it, you know?
So that means that it's a verbal, I can't talk about this, but that doesn't mean I can't do actions that might in a roundabout way go against the oath. Like when she gives the stone and tells Amelia to take care of the sanctuary, she could totally be like...
It's like a gray area.
There's gray area there. Like, she's doing things that you don't necessarily go against this oath that apparently she doesn't even really want to be keeping.
But wouldn't be beneficial to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I find their dynamic really nice, Ram and Frederica's.
They have a nice back and forth. Once
Elsa broke through the doors holding Petra, I was like, I don't like Elsa as much anymore. You don't fuck with Petra. Not cool.
It was not fun. That was not a fun time. Just knowing who was in the room and knowing that I was gonna have to watch all of them die in some way.
See, that's
not fun.
That's the thing about this show. It's like when situations like this begin to happen, I'm already put in a place where like 70% of me is like, okay, we're gonna die here, you know, because there's a lack of resolution on so many other plot points, and like that I'm like, okay, it could be inevitable that I'm gonna have to watch my favorite characters die.
What I think that they did something creatively in terms of storyboarding to help with that kind of feeling this episode of when's it gonna happen, when's the bad thing going to happen. They kept having whole scenes be very focused on the face and very up close when you know that something's happening off screen. Like the scene where Frederica is possibly transforming, or really she was getting out of her maid outfit. Mm-hmm. And we don't get shown the actual process of her getting out of that. We're in this interesting composition where Subaru and Ram are mainly on the left side of the screen. There's a little bit more open on the right, and they're both looking over to the right. Yeah. We get something else similar when Subaru is lost in thought on the way to the mansion, where he doesn't realize that Petra is standing there waiting for him, and we're very zoned in on Subaru's face, and we keep hearing Ram in the background being like, Subaru, or Barasu. Yeah. And then later in the episode, we have the same thing, but in the bedroom with Petra, and we're like holding her hand, and we're very focused on Subaru. The door's open, and Subaru is looking at Petra, and we're watching the shot of that. And it's like, there are other things that could be happening and popping out at any second. We're very focused on this little interaction and moment, and very... zoomed in on the screen, and they kept doing that. So it's like the whole time I was like, what's happening around elsewhere. You?
Yeah. Like, what could Elsa be doing right now?
Could she be walking up to you right now and we would not know until you pan out and we see her right there?
One of my favorite lines was Frederica being like, it's incorrect to say that I'm like Garf. Garf is the one who imitates me because she's the older sibling. Cool transformation.
Yep.
Didn't expect such a beast from it.
Elegant beast.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of the transformation, truthfully, though, was Frederica's, like, awareness of Petra and being like, it was good of you not to scream or be afraid.
Still very, like,
she's
kind
being
and
very good to
thoughtful of
Petra.
her. Mm-hmm.
And it's a torturous, amazing situation that they've put Petra in, because, like, I love seeing, like, her growth and her involvement in the story, but I hate having her be
actually
pawn
involved
of
in
yeah.
the actual horrors of ReZero.
Yeah, exactly. I loved Petra and Subaru trading and swapping bandages.
She's introduced like this to fill a little bit of the role that Rem plays in terms of treatment, thought process of Subaru. A character that feels about Subaru similarly to Rem is Petra and will act in a similar manner to how Rem would act. And so I think that using her here, it almost makes you like nostalgically sad. Like, what would Rem be doing if she was here? She'd probably be saying things similar to Petra here. And it makes you miss Rem more and reminds the viewer even more that Rem is literally just like a shell right now, like an empty shell right now that we need to try to save. And that we also need to try to save this pure Maiden, Petra.
Yeah. God, in terms of Elsa, like, and her involvement, I have no fucking clue. Because it's like, okay, whoever is her hire is very aware of Subaru's whereabouts and everybody's involvement in the situation.
Very aware.
And to such a degree of specifying in their directions that there are only going to be Frederica, Petra, and Rem on the premises.
So, question. They, for some reason, knew a certain amount of time that the mansion would be empty and just be the two maids and a shut-in, which is Betty.
Yeah.
So, that means that both of these episodes we've seen where Subaru gets home, it is earlier than whoever gave these orders expected. I guess that it is expected maybe that Amelia will have to go through the trial over and over and over again, and that it would take a little bit of time, and then it was probably really unexpected that Garf and the rest of the people in the sanctuary would have let the villagers leave.
Yeah.
Early.
So it tells me that okay, so let's try to think about if it's a character that's on or off plot point right now, right? Like, if they're within this specific plot we're dealing with right now. If they are, it can't be Roswell, right? If they are, it can't be Garf, obviously. It would have to be somebody who knew that Subaru was and Ram were initially leaving, or sorry, not Amelia was leaving, right? Because they had no desire to kill Amelia in this plan. It was solely just to kill.
What is the good that is done here for their plan
other than weakening their forces? Who is it? In my mind, it's like, okay, unless it's somebody in the camp, like a character like Ryuza, right? It would have to be one of the villagers. No, Otto, because he's not there, but Otto wouldn't have any purpose to doing this. Or it would have to be somebody who's in another political camp that we aren't privy to.
We got lines about weakening forces in this episode, so we could just latch onto that and say that it is someone who isn't involved with the sanctuary at all and is purely just not wanting Amelia to be a candidate or wanting to hurt her in some way, and is up to date with what Roswell's actions are and how he might think and what he might be doing, and therefore is deciding to weaken their forces a little bit by, having them come home to an assassin has killed their maids.
Yeah.
That's a warning, that's a effective warning, I think, of you are not safe. We know where you live.
Yeah.
Like, we can get in here and, kill people.
Acting under the impression that if somebody knew Subaru was going to leave early and head back, they would have conveyed that to Elsa.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who were told were Garf, Roswell, and Ram,
Mm-hmm.
which excludes the people. So the people who weren't told about it and wouldn't have been able to convey that to Elsa would be Ryuza, Amelia, Otto, which I don't suspect any of them of anything, so it would have to be somebody else, like, that we're not thinking about.
We got a line from Subaru that Otto just doesn't want to be involved.
Yeah.
So we saw a girl that matched the description of Ryuzu except for a different cloak color, and if you remember, Ram was like, don't say more than you need to Subaru in that instance. And so we were possibly operating thinking that whoever that person was that we saw might be on the opposite side of the sanctuary debate of, like, which camp you want to be in. Do you want to keep the sanctuary intact or do you not? If this hiring of Elsa is like a hired assassin. I'm sure she could work for whoever would want to pay for her.
If she's being paid to kill Frederica, who somewhat seems to be thought to aligning by oath with the conservatives, then killing her might benefit the camp of freeing the sanctuary.
I think that whoever gave her the oath, if she's working with the people who don't want the sanctuary to be freed, think about what it would do if you've heard, oh, but one of our people was out in the real world, out of the safety of the sanctuary, and they died. To show that using her, even if you're already using her as, like, you've put her under an oath, but using her even further by using her death as an example to all of the other demi-humans that they do not want to leave the sanctuary. Mm-hmm. It's not safe out there. And what would that do to Garf? Garf, your sister, was killed out there. But then timing-wise,
I don't know.
What do they think for Amelia? Do they really think that it's going to be enough time where someone will come back and find out about what happened and then go back and tell them before Amelia's been able to go through with the trials? There's 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Someone else probably knows that there are 3 of them. And they probably were operating thinking that Garf wouldn't let the villagers go or wouldn't let Amelia leave until these were completed. And so they probably were operating under some assumptions of people's actions. But you'd think you'd have at least 3 nights for 3 trials, right? Yeah. So they probably gave Elsa this window of no one's going to be back for 3 days.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Honestly, the scariest part of this episode to me was Subaru surviving at the end.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet in conversation. That's wild.
Because what does that mean? That means you almost find solace in the idea of Subaru dying here because then Petra gains an arm back, right?
Her life.
Yeah.
Assuming that she was actually crushed to death in the shot that
we saw. Do you think that Betty intentionally saved Subaru here?
Part of me wonders if Betty wants to ask him some questions beforehand.
Interesting.
It's not like Elsa's going to leave and not continue to search the mansion for him. Just from a 5-minute conversation with Betty. So I'm wondering, especially because Roswell brought up speaking to Beatrice, if he was suspicious of Frederica.
That is what we need to bring up at, that's my final point, I think. The idea of I hope that we can find a way to die here, which is a fucked up thing to say, but only like to reset again, because I don't want these characters to have been hurt or die. But we have this massive card in our to play, which is having that previous knowledge that Ram told us through Roswell about tell Betty to ask a question, or what was the line? It was
Something about asking a question.
yeah, it was very. She would never be allowed.
Message from
From Roswell.
And now Crunchyroll's loading.
We love Crunchyroll for that.
For loading. Now we have to find it again.
Message from Roswell. If you're worried about having to face Frederica, turn to Betty and tell her this. Roswell said to ask the question. So, like, that idea is on the table, too, within this whole...
Yeah, even if it's not facing Frederica, that is why we're asking Betty this or saying that to her. Subaru can still pull it out of his back pocket to try it here.
Yeah, we don't know what it does.
Literally, like, what else does he have to lose? He should just try trial and error everything until he figures out what he can best use the next time. But I just am really latching on to how emotionally tough this is, that he's like, why are you saving me here?
Yeah.
The frustration.
I like the Bow Hunter being back.
I also do. Like I had said, how could you have a character like that and not bring them back?
True. All right, that's all I have you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.